getting rejected over and over and over again feels like they're rejecting you because of the wheelchair.
It's not a defining factor in any way. To me, you're just like, oh, okay, you're someone that needs a wheelchair to get around. Okay. You're just like every other normal guy, though. I never saw the chair as a limitation or a deal breaker. I love you for you, and this is the cards that you were dealt, and there's no point in being not accepting of it. This is your life, and I want to be a part of it for all that it is.
So obviously today I wasn't actually out at the beach picking up chicks. I'm here with my girlfriend Jalila. If you're on Instagram, you know who she is. So one of the number one things I thought about after I got hurt was dating again. Why in the world would a girl ever want to be with a guy in a wheelchair when there's so many other guys out there that aren't in wheelchairs?
Actually, before I met Richard, I didn't know anybody that was in a wheelchair, so I didn't really have any previous assumptions about what it would be like to date someone in a wheelchair. But what really caught my eye about him was not the wheelchair itself, it was actually the confidence that he brought to the table almost immediately, and that pretty much overshadowed everything. So I never saw the chair as a limitation or a deal breaker or anything like that. It's just something that he used to get around sometimes, and that was pretty much it for me.
It's funny how you minimize it so much, because to us this is literally the most obnoxious big feature that we have, and I think to us it is the biggest barrier, but as you mentioned, it's really not. I would think things like, oh, why would a girl want to be with me if she could be with other guys? Have sex with me, I have a weird body, show me off to her friends. Like, well, what if all the things we can't do together? You know, I had all these limiting beliefs based on preconceived ideas of what I thought all girls thought, which is insane now that I look back at it and think about it. Listen to what she said. She didn't even notice the chair, really. I mean, it exists. We know it exists. It's a thing. It's a huge part of our relationship, but
it's not a defining factor in any way. To me, you're just like, oh, okay, you're someone that needs a wheelchair to get around. Okay. You're just like every other normal guy, though.
Was there anything that you had the questions about, or that you were second guessed about?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I maybe struggled with in the beginning of the relationship was other people's perceptions. I was okay. I quickly fell for you. I loved you as a person. I wanted to be around you, and I didn't see anything wrong, I guess, with, you being in a wheelchair, but I was definitely a little hesitant and nervous about what my family would think, about what my friends back from college and high school would think. I don't know why I was so nervous about it, and also the public eye, because I think you and I have experienced very much so in the beginning, whether it's out of curiosity or whatever the reason is, we got a lot of stares, and I remember in the beginning that was very tough, and I get very frustrated, be like, oh, I'm so sick of people looking at you, sick of people looking at us in weird ways, and that was the part that I probably struggled with the most. But I eventually got over that completely, and I don't notice it anymore. I don't look for it anymore. I actually used to look for people's
who's staring at us.
We'd be
now.
Walking into a Target and be like, okay, who's gonna stare now? But I don't do that anymore, and it doesn't bother me. I think as the relationship grew, maybe the things that I'm worried about more so are health-related issues.
Yeah, and I think she just brought up an interesting thing, and that's stuff that I've talked to her about, and you guys can learn to talk to your partners about. The idea that we have a continuing, ongoing thing, that there's always going to be bumps in the road, that there's always going to be challenges. We just address them as they happen.
Yes.
A wheelchair user's shoulders almost always go out after 20, 30 years. Maybe you have to transition into a power chair, or you maybe have to have someone start pushing you around, or I can walk a little bit, but I know that my left knee is gonna go out. When, don't know, but it's gonna go.
Right.
But as far as general life expectancy, it's the same. But when we first started dating, was there anything you ever thought that I couldn't do that might get in the way of our relationship?
One of the major things, and this happened a little bit later on in the relationship, not right away, was in terms of having a family and kids. First off, I don't know whether or not guys in wheelchairs could have kids or not. I didn't know. Someone brought that up somewhere on Instagram or something, and I didn't even think about it, and then I asked you, can you have kids? Because I don't know. I think I did ask you what your life expectancy was. Jesus.
But that's a good question to ask. That's really a good question.
I didn't know. Right now, as you guys know, like through his other videos, that you still can walk around without your wheelchair. I know I've asked you this question before. Is there going to be a time down the line where that's not going to be the case anymore, where you're going to be permanently bound to the chair from some point down on?
Yeah, that's more specific to me, but that's still good questions to ask.
So those were like the hesitations that I had. But in terms of like doing stuff, like physical activities, I mean, we're very active. I mean, we're going out, every weekend to like the parks, and you show me like a lot of good times. If I'm alone, I don't really do much. So when I met him, I started going out every single weekend. That was never a concern with me because we dove in just doing shit all the time.
Like date yourself first, so that when a girl comes into the picture, you already know what you can and can't do. You already know what concert venues to go to. You already know what restaurants are delicious. You already know what areas of town are wheelchair accessible. So the second I got someone who was willing to come with me, I'm like, hey, let's go to all these things I already know how to do.
And I was like, damn, he's been to all these places. I'm able-bodied and I haven't gone to anything. I just stay at home.
There's so much curiosity and there's so much taboo around dating in an interable relationship, where one person doesn't have a disability but the other person does. We had someone make an assumption the other day. They're like,
oh, is she just an asexual person? Does she just is she okay not having sex?
No, it's like what a silly assumption. Because we have to be so creative within our sex life that it's better than it would be if we could have a normal sex life. Right? Like if we just had 3 positions and that was it. You know what I mean? And then oh, wheelchair boy doesn't have sex. He's paralyzed from the waist down, everything. And that was something, boys, let me tell you, that shook me for a while too, because I remember thinking, let's be real for a minute. In the beginning, your shit don't work. Why even try? Why even try to talk to a girl when the end goal eventually within a relationship is sex? Let's just be real, that's what we want. So it's can't get it up, not even gonna try. Why even try? But the truth is, there's so many options out there. There's pills, there's injections, there's pumps, there's rings. You can get so creative, and you don't even have to worry about that. You just have to find a partner who's willing and open and trusting that you can just try things out.
The trust factor is probably the most important thing that you need to have, if you're looking for a new relationship. Trust for sure. As of any relationship, not just, interabled, but especially for this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Were there any barriers that you were concerned about sexually in our relationship? Was there ever a time when you thought to yourself, oh no, I don't know anything about wheelchair users' sex life?
Honestly, initially, I didn't think about that as an issue. I kind of just assumed, it does work, if that's what you're asking. Only because the fact that I knew you could walk around a little bit, so people that don't have a case like yours, that could be completely different. But because of that, I thought, okay, then I think something works. And then I just straight up asked you the question, I think one day, and then you're like, yeah, we good. and that's basically it. After that, I was like, all right, well then we're good.
I used to always worry about my bowel and bladder program. I used to think oh my god, I gotta hide this from a girl. If a girl ever finds out I use a cath to pee, oh no, she's never gonna talk to me. Or if she figures out that I have to stick my finger in my butt to poop, no, she's see, it's funny. It's funny.
You said it's so matter of fact.
We decide it's such a big deal because to us it is a big deal, but all of a sudden we decide it's a big deal for everybody else.
Right.
I remember the first time I showed you, I was like, hey, you want to watch me pee? And you were like, absolutely.
I gotta see this.
I gotta see this. And dude, okay, I'll be real with you guys. I poop my pants sometimes, and if you make that's just not just real life when it comes to spinal cord injury, but the truth is, if you're worried about it and afraid about it, that ruins your confidence. Because I tell you what, once I finally just accepted the fact that shit happens, literally, and once I accepted the fact that I pee through a catheter and sometimes I pee on myself whatever. And then I figured out that I could perform sexually. Okay, I'm gonna like get in the gym and like get strong, and then I'm gonna like make sure I get like a haircut and like do my beard nice every day. I'm gonna wear nice clothes, and I'm gonna shower, and I'm gonna wear cologne, and I'm gonna be funny, and you know, like all these things that it takes to be a well-rounded human being. The wheelchair vanished.
Yes.
It literally vanished. You have to become what you want to attract.
You live your life. You live your life normally and the best you can to be the best person that you can. And then I believe that, you know, it will come together in some way. The first thing you need to do is work on yourself. This is for any relationship, not just inner-abled or anything like that. You have to work on yourself, be the best version you can be. You're gonna attract someone just like you who is understanding, who is trustworthy, who is kind. They're gonna see past the chair, they're gonna see past your bowel programs, they're gonna see past the things that you think are embarrassing or shameful. I love you for you, and you know, a lot of the things you can't help. This is the cards that you were dealt, and there's no point in being not accepting of it. It's not your fault, you can't help it. This is your life, and I wanna be a part of it for all that it is. And again, it's for any relationship.
Don't stop trying. Don't quit just because you got a bunch of no's. Like, I got rejected by plenty of people, and I'm so glad I got rejected by those people, because one, in the end I realized, oh, they were not the right person for me, or they were actually shallow and kind of terrible people. Getting rejected over and over and over again feels like they're rejecting you because of the wheelchair. Nothing to do with the wheelchair, guys. It feels like it's the wheelchair, but it's not. It's just like a matter of you guys not being the right people. And one of the things Jalila touched on is about confidence, and how if you have enough confidence, it'll overshadow your wheelchair. But what happens when you don't have confidence? What does that look like then? Well, then your wheelchair is really obvious. And I've talked on like, oh, become the best version of yourself. But again, that's kind of ambiguous. What does that mean? So to me, I had to think about setting goals for my physical body. I had to think about like what diet I was gonna eat. I had to think about what type of workouts I was gonna do, what type of athletic performance I wanted to have. I had to set personal development goals. Like I thought, okay, like I'm gonna watch this seminar, I'm gonna read this book, I'm gonna listen to this podcast, you know, I'm gonna take this course, like what I wanted to do professionally. When I say professionally, I don't necessarily mean job. Like some of you guys are to the point where like you can't get jobs. Either you've been discriminated against and won't get hired, or you just don't have the physical ability to do that. But I still mean your work. Whatever your work is, become the best at it and so good at it, whether it's a passion or a hobby. I was confident in my body. I was confident in my personal development and my ability to do things. I was confident in my professional life. I was confident in my spirituality. So when a girl came around, I wasn't worried. I was like, oh, I got 4 other things that I know I'm really good at that I don't have to like think twice about, so if I get rejected, it's whatever. When you can master other areas of your life, then mastering confidence within inside of a relationship is much easier. So why would you choose to date a wheelchair user when there's plenty of other guys out there that aren't disabled?
Right. Well, it's not whether or not you're in a wheelchair. I have a certain type of person that I want to date, you know, based on different qualities, and you had them and they did not. It has nothing to do with the wheelchair itself. It's not a question of would you date someone in a wheelchair or not, is would you date that person, period, based on who they are.
Jalila, thanks so much for answering all of my very invasive questions. These guys are really going to appreciate it. If you have any more questions about what it's like to have a girlfriend as a wheelchair user, please leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to respond to everybody, and maybe some other girls that date guys in chairs will be able to answer those questions as well. If you didn't know, Andrew and I, who's behind the camera right now, have a behind the scenes podcast on Patreon, linked below. You get to hear about all the behind the scenes stuff that we do. It's real fun, real cool. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, and we'll see you in the next one.